Hello, Steve White, Trick Boy 89 for Steve White's 89. Well, it is September 8th. It is the 55th anniversary of the original Star Trek, although technically not yet because of the time zones. I'm in Australia, so yeah, I think it's technically just the morning, or it may not even actually be the 8th yet, technically, because it premiered at 8 p.m. in America, whereas, it's late at night on the 8th in Australia here, and I don't know, I just feel like I need to do a video. I was thinking, what should I do for the 55th anniversary? I was thinking maybe I could start doing reviews of the original series and just do one for each anniversary of each episode for each week. Because I did a marathon like that where I watched every episode. But I don't know, I feel like I need to do more research on the episodes before I can really contribute anything interesting that anyone would want to hear that haven't already heard before. So I just thought I'm just going to talk about the show itself, where it's at, because it's a really weird place for a Star Trek fan at the moment, because the original Star Trek is kind of being replaced by the new Star Trek, and this was something that was suggested a few years ago by Night's Edge and people like that, and I sort of thought they were exaggerating a bit until we got to this year, where last year they tried to repackage and rebrand the 54th anniversary of Star Trek with, Star Trek Day. And I sort of thought, I don't know, that's kind of okay, making the anniversary Star Trek Day, so it's not so much about the anniversary. I thought that's kind of okay. And then this year, they stripped away all the old Star Trek from it. They've got no panels on the original series or Next Gen or Deep Space Nine or Voyager or Enterprise. It's just about selling the new shows. It's not about celebrating Star Trek. I mean, you're celebrating 5 years of the 55-year history for the 55th anniversary. You're cutting out the first 50 years and just calling it Star Trek Day and focusing on just the current shows that are in production. And it's all about just marketing and what the company and IP owners want, which is to just focus on selling the current product. And it's just horrible, because my whole life I've watched Star Trek be celebrated on its anniversary. It's always been about celebrating Star Trek's anniversary, its history, what it was, and now it's just being erased and just turned into this, it's hard to describe what feels like as a fan to see this sort of happen. And you just have these people who are just so aggressive about it. Like, I saw a post for Alex Kurtzman's birthday the other day, and someone was saying, we're so lucky to have him and all this. And I was like, should I comment? I have nothing good to say. And then someone actually said something that was an outright lie. They said, he's given us more Star Trek in 4 years than Rick Berman gave us in 18 years. I'm like, are you kidding me? Rick Berman produced 625 episodes of Star Trek over 4 series. In 3 series, Alex Kurtzman has only given you guys 65 episodes, and you're lying and saying that he produced more. And people who don't know the difference, people who are just listening to the sort of new sort of PR about these new shows, are going to believe that these other shows don't exist. And I'm like, this is really disturbing to see how the media can manipulate things, and how people can easily be manipulated and gaslit, and people are being convinced that the old Star Trek was bad, it was racist and sexist, and it didn't matter, and no one really liked it, and it wasn't really good until now, it wasn't really cool until now, and it was only woke now. And the way it's being repackaged and rebranded, and it's really disturbing. And to see on its 55th anniversary, to see the way they are just trying to minimize it and eliminate it and barely acknowledge. They've got a panel for each new show and one panel on the basic history of the show, and just sort of, because they can't totally get rid of it. But just wait, next year there'll be nothing. There'll be nothing. It will just be Star Trek Day, or just about the new Star Trek. And people sort of commented when I said this that, of course, that they've been trying to do that for years. This is a strategic marketing thing. It's just business. And I'm like, wow, it's really cold and depressing. And I don't want to see Star Trek die, because the idea is they're going to stop producing, stuff from the original canon universe. The original William Shatner, Leonard Nimoy Kirk, Spock, that's all going to be phased out and it's just going to be the new stuff. And I'm not really that interested in the new stuff. And even if I was, I'd still want both. I'd want old Star Trek and new Star Trek, just like I always wanted Deep Space Nine and Next Gen and Voyager and Enterprise stuff just as much as I did the original Star Trek. And even when the new films came out, and I did initially like the first film, and that I was happy to have that merchandise and those toys and the new ship and all that, and the old stuff. I didn't need to destroy one to have another, but that's sort of the marketing mentality of you only focus on what's being produced, what you're putting money into producing now, what you need to get money back from, what you need to profit from, and nothing else matters. And you saw this when Enterprise went off the air. There are a lot of fan-based programs and magazines and things like the Star Trek Fan Club, and the websites were mostly run by fans initially, and then Paramount took them over and said, oh, we will put money into these, we'll do a better job than you can, we'll bring in professional people, but you can stay on and be consultants and all that. And that worked for a while, and then as soon as the shows went off the air, they're like, oh, we have no reason to put money into promoting this anymore because we don't have a product to promote anymore. The show's gone. We don't care about the old shows that you care about, that you rewatch and rebuy and enjoy and buy the merchandising for and live in that universe. We're not promoting a product anymore. So they cut off they cut the fan club, they cut the magazines, they cut it all. And then the fan films came out, and the fans started to produce their own Star Trek and started to keep it alive, much like they did when the first Star Trek was cancelled. Because the first Star Trek was cancelled in '69, and Paramount was done with it, but the fans kept it alive. And then when they realised there was still money to be made, that's when they started to promote it again and support it, and they wanted to do a new show, and they managed to get an animated show out, but Gene didn't really want to work with them, so they didn't get an actual series out of them. Then they made the movie because Star Wars pushed them enough to sort of work with Gene again and all this sort of drama and that. But Star Trek was dead for a while. The fans brought it back to life. Same thing happened after Enterprise. It was dead. Fans brought it back to life. Then the films came out, and they didn't try and re-engage the old fans. They tried to create a new group of fans and to bring the general audience in by dumbing the show down and making it more generic science fiction and action orientated. And that sort of worked short term, but it lost its it lost its interest with people because it promised to boldly go and never did. They kept promising we'll boldly go in the next film. You'd have this sort of very generic science fiction sort of story that wasn't very Star Trek, that wasn't really boldly going, or new civilizations or strange new worlds or anything, and then they'd create a problem, break Star Trek, put Star Trek back together at the end and say, we've realised who we are again, and we're going to boldly go in the next film, and then come back to the next film and do the same thing again. Their story was not to boldly go and to explore, and it was just to break Star Trek, create a problem, and then put it back together again. And that was the whole journey, just fixing a problem. And no, that really wasn't Star Trek. It didn't really engage anyone, and it just sort of fizzled out. And I'm just thinking back to 5 years ago. 5 years ago, we had the 50th anniversary. Beyond had just come out in time for the anniversary. They wanted to do a series, but they couldn't because they had a no-compete clause, because they've got these multiple IP licensing between Bad Robot and Secret Hideout and Paramount and CBS. So they couldn't do a series because of a movie, and they couldn't do a movie because of a series, and they couldn't do a series because of the movie, and it was just a mess. And they managed to get Beyond out just in time for the 60th, but there was no promotion, for the 50th, but there was no promotion to help it because the people who owned the series that was celebrating the anniversary didn't want to help promote the film, and the film didn't want to help promote the series because they were competing. So the 50th anniversary got no attention, and everyone was excited because we knew they were going to do a new series. It was supposed to sort of happen for the 50th anniversary, but it got pushed a year. And so Discovery was being made, and everyone got all excited because we thought, new show, we're going to have a bigger budget. It's going to be, even though it's going to be limited to a paywall, we're still going to be able to buy it on DVD, and we'll still see it and blah, blah, blah. So we're going to get this new, more expensive, modern Star Trek, and everyone's excited. And then we started to see the cracks, and then it came out, and there was all these problems, and then the fan base split because you had the new fans and the old fans who both liked a different type of show because they created this different show. And then you had the old fans who liked one show and the new fans that liked another show. And some fans in the middle liked both. And that just became this big conflict where you had the two halves fighting, and then the ones in between totally confused about what was even happening. And I was hoping it would get better. I was hoping when Paramount and CBS merged that they'd be able to sort it all out. But that didn't happen, because as soon as they merged, it didn't automatically dissolve any of the contracts. We still had to wait out the contracts, which is what we were doing. But then instead of letting Kurtzman end with the contract, they renewed him. So we can't produce any old Star Trek because they're still producing new Trek. So we're kind of stuck where we can't get new Star Trek, and the new Trek is trying to replace old Star Trek. And it's just this sad state, because it's the 55th anniversary. We're supposed to be celebrating the old Star Trek, while the people who currently hold the IP and are producing the new Star Trek shows are trying to bury it. While telling us that how much they love it, and they're trying to continue it and support it and all that, when it's the complete opposite. And it's just this really bizarre experience as a fan. And I don't know, because I still have all the episodes on DVD and Blu-ray. I have all my memories, I have all my books, I have all the stuff. I can still just live in my little Star Trek bubble, but I don't want to live reliving the same old, stories like I'm stuck in the cage. I want new Star Trek, but I want it to actually be Star Trek. I want it to be optimistic, utopian. I want it to celebrate the Federation as this unity of all these, planets, as opposed to looking at it as this patriarchy and colonization that has to be destroyed because it's the enemy, and all these political things that people are bringing in from today and from their issues and agendas, and none of that was in the original. And it's just, I just don't know how this is going to be fixed. I don't know how we're going to get back to having an actual Star Trek again. I had some hope that they sort of thought maybe they can bring out Strange New Worlds and make it very much like Star Trek, and keep Discovery like Discovery, and then you can keep both sides of the fandom happy because they've both got their own shows. Kind of like Deep Space Nine and Next Gen were kind of opposites, because Deep Space Nine kind of created a different Star Trek fandom as well. But the divide wasn't as big because it was just difference, not like totally different shows, just a little bit of difference and variation. It started the crack that sort of became the split later on, but for a while there you had sort of two sides of the fandom sort of happy and just sort of going along with it. But maybe if they did a multiverse thing, they could have that, and they could acknowledge that the original canon universe is its own thing and make stuff in that universe when they want to, just like they can keep producing new Trek stuff and have that in its own universe, and maybe create other universes where they have other things like maybe the Tarantino film, and the other guy who was doing that film that was all about an original crew, and it wasn't about the original characters, and they were trying to push the original characters from the JJ films onto him because that universe was established, so he walked and all that sort of crap. There's ways that they could do this where everyone wins and people can save face. The Discovery people can say, our show is great, see, they kept making it. And new Trek, old Trek, we can have both. We can have the old Star Trek shows from the original canon universe made, and that validates us. There is a way to do it, but I don't think they'll ever do that, because people are so territorial with their marketing and with their IP and what they create. They really have to destroy the competition, and the two Star Treks really are competition for each other. So I don't know how this is going to work out, and I'm getting to 13 minutes, and I think I'm going to make this a 15-minute video. But yeah, I wanted to do something for Star Trek's 55th anniversary, but it's such a mess. It's hard to sort of celebrate Star Trek without sort of mourning it, and to talk about it without talking about the issues that are happening. And I know there's some people that love the new Star Trek and don't see any problem with the old Star Trek dying. They don't even notice that it's sick and doesn't exist, because they never saw it the same as other fans. They never valued the same parts of it and the same elements of it that other fans, the newer fans, do. And they're very narcissistic, and they don't care about what we've lost. As long as they get their new Trek, they don't care if we lose the original Star Trek. They don't even recognise something has been lost, but we do. And it's very frustrating and weird and difficult, and it's hard to talk about Star Trek on an anniversary and Star Trek as a whole without talking about all these issues. And I just wish it didn't exist, but it does. And it's happening in a lot of franchises where IP and marketing and merchandising and different producers and that, and different fan groups and different universes, and everything splits, and nothing ever is as successful as the original, because once it starts splitting, the audience is only so big, the people it appeals to is only so many, that you can't just keep splitting it and splitting it. So I just wonder if it's ever going to come back and be as great as it ever was. I don't know. But we'll see. We'll see what happens for the 60th anniversary. We'll see where we are in 5 years. I'm trying to be optimistic, but yeah. I'm going to go. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think. I'm going to try and watch a bunch of Star Trek. Got a bunch of documentaries I haven't watched, and I might start rewatching the episodes again and just try and enjoy what I loved about Star Trek. But I can't ignore what's happening also, so it's kind of difficult.